You have found yourself in step 2, narrow a question. This is such an exciting time in the personal interest project process, and I'm so excited that you are here with me today. You might be wondering, well, Tiffany, why do I need a personal interest project question and not just a topic? In step 1, you were figuring out what your passion is, what your interest is, and focusing it in on maybe 1 or 2 or 3 areas of passion. And now if you know what those are, you might be thinking, well, don't I just start? Well, I want to help you with that because it can be overwhelming. You might feel like, I've got my topic, dogs, recess, chocolate, whatever your topic may be, but where do you go with that? What's the next step? And that's what this is all about, is focusing in on a question that's going to drive your inquiry. A question that you can be so passionate and so excited about that you wake up in the middle of the night like, oh, I've got this great idea and I want to pursue it. That's the kind of question that you want to create, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. There's some very easy ways to do that. All right, now you might be thinking, well, what makes a great personal interest project question? And I have some examples to share with you and also a couple of really great tools that'll help you just to carve out the most deep question that you possibly can from your topic. All right. So why questions anyways? Well, you can see this little stick man. He's on top of the world with his power to question. And in life, not just in personal interest projects, but in life, you want to be an effective questioner. In fact, if you can be so skillful in the types of questions that you ask, you can have greater success and control over your life's course when you do that. Now think about this. I've got a hypothesis here. I think life itself is a question. Now think about it. Life as a question. And if life itself is a question, then who we are and what we do and how we respond in this life is kind of our answer. Now, wouldn't it be great to be able to understand the question a little bit better? Now, I know this is getting a little bit abstract on you, but we're talking about this because I want you to see that in this step 2 of personal interest projects, learning to craft a great question, that's going to serve you in your project, but it could help you to also achieve even greater dreams for yourself. Now let me show you some examples of some people who've done exactly that. All right, so think about Steve Jobs, chairman, CEO, co-founder of Apple. Now, this was a person who perhaps at some point asked himself directly a question like this: how can I think differently about the design and function of the personal computer? And look at what has come from that kind of a question. You know, we have great computers that are beautiful and functional, and iPads and iPods and all of those things that became the answer to that question. All right, over here we've got Julia Child, the beloved chef and author of cookbooks. At some point when she was first starting out, she looked around and saw that people were eating meatloaf and TV dinners and not really taking the joy of cooking and eating as seriously as she thought might be important. So a question she may have asked herself is, how can I teach a food-fearing nation the delights of cooking fine French cuisine? And you think about what she did to answer that question. Amazing TV shows, an amazing legacy. We've got Oprah over here. Oprah, think about the impact that Oprah's had. Oprah's all about great questions, asking them of her guests and asking them of the world, asking them of herself. The question that she might have asked early on in her career might have been, how can I build rapport with people and promote a culture of learning and self-improvement? You can really see that question running throughout the course of her life and her work. And what a tremendous impact answering that question has had. Over here, Martin Luther King Jr. A question that he asked was, what would a world free from racism be like? That question posed to us in his speech, I Have a Dream, the I Have a Dream speech. You know, that visionary speech when we had to think about, well, maybe we could make a difference. Maybe we could change, and maybe we could live in this world that was envisioned for us in a new way. What a powerful question. What an important answer that we continue to work towards. Here's another activist, Craig Kielburger. He got to start asking deep questions early on when he saw Pakistani boy Iqbal Masih, who had been murdered. He was advocating for children's rights. There was lots of child labor happening and in that time, and there still is. And Iqbal Masih was murdered for taking a stand as a child. And Craig Kielburger, he saw that and felt a sense of outrage and wanted to take a stand. So he asked a question over the course of his very young life already. He still made a great impact. He wondered, how can young people work together to call attention to the human rights injustices suffered by children? So there he has gone and taken a stand to try to find an answer to that. He's got with his brother, he's got the Me to We work that he's been doing and the charities. And you can see the types of questions that people ask can lead to hugely impactful work. So now we got to pause and think, well, what kind of questions do we want to ask? What kind of questions am I asking myself on a daily basis? What do I want to have for breakfast? Where are my shoes? Where'd my car keys go? Stuff like that. And those are all a part of living. But we can also zero in on some bigger questions. How do I want to feel today? What do I want to accomplish? How do I want to make other people feel today? What's my life's passion? What's my life's question? All right, and we've got some young people here. Corey, let's imagine Corey, who's maybe say in grade 6 or 7. Corey asks a deep question. What are the 5 most creative and useful ways I can think of to repurpose a plastic bag? That's a good question to start a personal interest project with. We've got all these plastic bags that come into our lives when we go shopping, and hopefully we're using our reusable bags, but we still seem to get these plastic bags accumulating in our lives at times. Now, what can we do with them? We can recycle them, and what else can we do to give them a new life, to give that use of resources meaning? Well, Corey is going to do some exploration and figure out 5 really creative and useful transformations for a plastic bag. Interesting project, hey? All right, Sam. Sam is thinking about, what are the top 3 lessons I've learned about leadership while being a kid? Very interesting. Who is a leader? Do you have to be older and sophisticated and distinguished and have many degrees and lots of money to be a leader? Or maybe Sam is a leader. Sam, maybe at 10 years old, has had some interesting life experiences that he's reflected on in deep ways and has come to discover some insights about leadership. And this project that he's going to go on is about exploring those lessons and sharing them with others. We know that young people certainly can be leaders. Craig Kielburger, an amazing example. All right, and now Alice. Alice's question is, how is math a part of my everyday life? That's a very exciting question. You know, how much time do we spend just doing multiplication tables and writing out as fast as we can the answers to math problems versus the time we spend just going, what an interesting mathematical universe we live in. How interesting to see the Fibonacci numbers in the swirl of a pine cone. Or to figure out the shapes that emerge in nature and in a street sign. There's an octagon. You know, how can I use my knowledge of compound interest to amass a great fortune? There's so many questions that we can ask in life that are related to mathematics, and this is a great starting question that will unfold all kinds of other questions. Very interesting. And as we go through this module, feel free, if at any time you see a question that I refer to and you think, hey, that's a cool question, I'd like to study that, I'd like that to be my personal interest project question, go for it, feel free. All of the questions I share with you in this module, they are up for grabs, they are for you. And actually, at the end of this module, you're gonna see a PDF that has listed all of the questions that I've mentioned in this module. So you can just go through there and have a nice resource to draw from. So if you ever are stuck and say, I still don't know what a good question would be, well, we've got some samples there for you, and you just choose what comes from your heart. And you can also learn how to create your own. So why would you want to learn this process though? Like, why would you want to go dive in and learn to create your own questions if I'm just going to give you a bunch? Well, I want to give you a bunch of great questions, but I also want to give you the feeling of confidence and power that you can create a great question anytime, anywhere, and you can recognize it and know the difference between a good question and a not so meaningful question. But this process does take time. It will take a little bit of time, but I'm going to shorten your learning curve. I'm going to give you all the goods, all the stuff that you need to know just to zip right through it, as long as you're committed to learning about great questions. All right, and how I'm going to do that? I'm going to just start by giving you lots of great examples. Because how will you know what a good question is if somebody just says, go make a good question? Like, you need to see examples. Show me, show me. That's what I find my students are always saying. That's what I was always saying when I was a student, and I still am a student for life. Show me what you mean. Don't just say, be creative. Give me an example of creativity. Don't just say, make a great question. Show me a whole bunch of great questions and let me think about them and figure out what is their unifying feature. And then I will use that information to create my own questions. And this process, this is fun. This is good stuff because you're going to feel your brain working. You're going to feel the muscle inside your brain just working out. It's like a workout for your brain, okay? So if you're there, if you're committed, you stay focused, you take the breaks when you need to, you're going to be having fun and you're going to see the results in your ability to question more deeply. And the people in your life are going to start to notice this. People love great questions. People love being asked great questions. You'll see how this works, and I can tell you already are sensing this already. Now, this process of learning great questioning, it's meaningful and it's valuable. Like we said, if life is a question, don't you want to know more about that question? Don't you want to take charge and phrase that question your own way? Then you can begin to answer it in the way that you see fit, in the way that is going to be meaningful and exciting for you. All right, so that was your introduction to this step, which is narrow focus question. And in the next video, we're going to go through what makes a great personal interest project question. We're going to look at the criteria, 5 pieces of criteria that will help you know that you have an excellent question. And after that, we're going to look at a whole bunch of examples of personal interest project questions that are deep and meaningful and meaty and the kinds that you really want to be working with. And then we're going to issue a challenge to you. So take all your learning about great questions and apply it. And do the work of creating a couple sample questions. That's going to prepare you and lead up to crafting your own personal interest project question. You deserve a question that is going to excite your imagination, that's going to make you want to pursue it to the ends of the earth. And if you go through this process and commit yourself to learning about good questions, you're going to be able to create a question that you feel passionate about. And in the meantime, you're also going to be thinking about how life is a question and how you want to answer that in a bigger way.